And now it gives me great pleasure to welcome the member of the Country Music Hall of Fame and one of country music's most recorded and greatest songwriters, Mr. Bill Anderson. Bill, can you hear me all right?
I got you fine, Paul. Thank you. I didn't mean to call in the middle of the record there.
Oh, no, that's not a problem. We'll put that back on later because that's a great song.
Okay, thank you.
Did you write Mr. Peepers?
No, I didn't. You know, that's one of the very few songs that I've recorded over my career that I didn't write. But my producer at the time, Jim Fogelsong, found that song and thought it would fit me. It's a funny song, and I always thought Roy Clark should have recorded that, but since he didn't, I did.
Yeah, that would have been a good fit too. But I know you're a real busy guy, so let's start back at the beginning, if we could. Now, you were raised in Atlanta, Georgia, mostly, correct?
Well, right outside of Atlanta, a little suburb of Atlanta called Decatur, Georgia. Yeah.
And so how old were you when you found out you had a love for music?
My parents used to tell me I was about 2 or 3 years old. I used to love to listen to the radio. Of course, I was born back in the days when radio was the big thing before television, and I could find music on the radio, my parents tell me, when I was a very, very little boy, and always loved to listen to it, and for some reason I was always attracted to country music.
So how old were you when you first learned how to play the guitar?
I think I was probably 10. I may have been 9, I may have been 11, but somewhere right around there. Took a few lessons, and everybody that was trying to teach me to play wanted me to play some other kind of music, and all I wanted to play was country music, so I quit taking lessons and ended up teaching myself.
Now, music was not your first career choice, though, was it? You attended the University of Georgia and received a degree in journalism.
I thought I was going to be the world's greatest sports writer for for a long time. I always loved sports. When I was growing up, my two loves were music and sports, and I always liked to write. And it wasn't that I really didn't want to pursue a career in music. It was just, I was just thinking that's something that's so far out of reach it can never happen. That's something that happens to other people. That could never happen to little Bill Anderson from Decatur, Georgia. So I took the sports writing path for a while, but then lo and behold, some good things happened for me in music, and next thing I knew, I ended up in the music business.
And you started working your way through school as a DJ, correct? A radio DJ.
I got a job on a radio station in Athens, Georgia, where the university is. They would not let me play country music, though, on that particular station, so as soon as I could, I got out of there and went about 20 miles north to a little town called Commerce, Georgia, and worked on the radio station there, and that's where I was when I wrote the song City Lights, which launched my career as a songwriter.
So that was, in the meantime, were you working at the Atlanta Constitution? Because you had actually gotten a job as a writer for a newspaper.
Well, I did, but that was actually a little before. I did the sports writing the last few years that I was in high school, and then on the summer between high school and college. But then once I got over to the University of Georgia, the radio bug bit me real bad. I got the job on the radio station, and music was always part of my life, and it always was something I loved, and just was fortunate enough to end up getting into it.
So 1958 came along, and Ray Price recorded City Lights, one of your, I guess probably one of your early compositions, wasn't it?
Well, it was the one, as I said, that launched everything for me. I wrote it, I was 19 years old and still in school, of course, at the university, working on the little radio station in Commerce, and went up on top of the tallest building in Commerce, which was 3 stories tall. And there weren't very many lights in Commerce, Georgia. It was 2 or 3 traffic lights. That's about it. And my father told me in later years, he said, I should have known you had the imagination to be a songwriter if you could go up on that little tall building in Commerce and write about the bright array of city lights. But that's what happened, and of course that was the key for everything for me in Nashville.
So how did Ray find City Lights, your song? How did it get to him?
Very interesting path that it took. I made the original record of City Lights myself on a small record label called TNT Records, which was out of San Antonio, Texas. My record got to Nashville, and Chet Atkins heard my record and liked the song, and he was producing an artist at the time named Dave Rich. So Chet took my song and recorded it with Dave Rich. And the way that it got to Ray Price is Ray Price and Ernest Tubb were in the car together riding to the golf course. They were going to play a round of golf one afternoon. And Dave Rich's record of City Lights came on the local radio station in Nashville. And the story that I've been told over the years was that Ray Price didn't really pay all that much attention to it, but Ernest Tubb was the one that really liked it. And he kept saying, Ray, you ought to record that song. And Ray said, well, I've already got my next record cut and blah, blah, you know. And the way that the story was told to me was all the way around the golf course that day, Ernest Tubb kept telling Ray Price, son, you need to record City Lights.
Well,
and finally Ray did. I've always wondered if he recorded it because he liked it or if he recorded it just to shut Ernest Tubb up.
Well, it's a wonder E.T. didn't record it, because that sounds like, City Lights sounds like a song that would have fit his honky-tonk style pretty well.
Well, I think it probably would have, but for some reason he thought it fit Ray Price better than it did him, and I'm not going to argue with it because it turned out to be very successful.
No, and on the success of City Lights, you actually arranged a recording contract with Decca Records, correct? You signed with them relatively soon.
Well, what City Lights really did for me was it opened the door in Nashville where I could come to Nashville and instead of just being a kid on the street with a bunch of songs, I could say, hey, I'm Bill Anderson. I wrote the song called City Lights, and I've got some others. Would you care to listen? And the doors were open at that point, and so that was kind of, as I said, my key to the music business. And one thing led to another, and yeah, I ended up with a recording contract myself, and stayed with Decca Records for 23 years, I think it was.
So what was your first hit on Decca?
Well, that really kind of depends on how you define a hit. The first record I made was a song called That's What It's Like to Be Lonesome, which Ray Price, again, he covered it, and it was his follow-up to City Lights. My record of that got up to about number 12, I think, in the chart, so it was a medium-sized hit. The first one that I had that went all the way to number 1 was in 1962, a song called Mama Sang a Song, and then right after that was the career record, which was Still in 1963.